You just never know where you're going to be able to help someone or they can help you. And a lot of the times people like hold back from asking from that fear or just feeling like they judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And they actually are missing a huge opportunity.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the 2020 podcast, bringing clarity to entrepreneurship, business, and life. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And before we start, as always, I want to ask you to share this. If you like it, take a screenshot, put it on your Instagram story, whatever you like. Let me know you're engaging. Let me know you're enjoying it. Also, of course, leave us a rating on iTunes. Leave us a little comment there. Let us know what you think. As always, we're speaking to inspirational people who can teach us things about how to advance in life, how to advance in business and entrepreneurship. And my guest today is one amazing example of that. I've known him for many years, and he has been a mentor and a friend and really helpful for me in building different aspects of my life as well. He is the founder of Style by Sarai, the owner of Sarai Bespoke, and co-founder of the charitable organization One Karma. Please welcome Jason Sarai. Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. So, as always, I'd like to start by just asking where you're from, how you grew up, and what you did kind of in your younger years. Let's go up to like high school, maybe beginning of university, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no problem. I grew up in Richmond, British Columbia. I have an older brother and an older sister. My parents had a house in Richmond until I was 18. So I did all my elementary, high school. I attended two different high schools, London before I attended Richmond High. And I transferred to Richmond High to pursue just some more athletic advanced programs. So whether it was from soccer and basketball, I grew up being an athlete with aspirations of being a professional soccer player. And Richmond High was the opportunity to play at the same school that my brother was at.
I gotcha.
At the same time, it had a soccer program that could put me in a position to potentially get a scholarship and attend school in the States.
All right.
So a lot of my upbringing up until high school and university and post-university was really focused heavily on sports and soccer, and academics was a little bit on the back burner. And it was during my youth in high school that I was playing soccer at the provincial level, metro, and then I was with the youth national programs for soccer with the under 15, under 20 Canadian programs.
Wow.
So that was really like a great opportunity to get to travel, to be challenged, to compete against the best of the best, and then go through some challenges with injuries during that course of my career. In high school, I after recovering from my first ACL reconstruction in grade 10, there wasn't many people that had ACL reconstructions back in 94. So like Pavel Bure was one of those people, but back then it was like potentially a career-ending injury.
Yeah.
But fortunately I had some amazing surgeons and physiotherapists that I was introduced to that was allowing me to heal and get better and come back better to be able to step into my senior year, put together some videos with my Richmond High tryout for the under 20 team. And it was there that I was able to get a scholarship to go play NCAA Div 1 in Pittsburgh at Robert Morris.
Wow, incredible. There's so much in there already.
I know. I don't know how much to jam in there.
No, that's amazing. I love it. And I didn't realize you had that surgery so early. I knew that you had that injury, but in 94, that's really early? Because I heard about you before we even knew each other in the 90s, because I moved to Canada in 94. I played a lot of soccer myself, not at the same level, obviously, but in the soccer universe as a whole, Jason Sarai's name actually was said a lot, right? Because you were an incredible soccer player. You still are, of course, you're still very good. But at the time, I just remember hearing your name in the different tournaments, and people would come out to just watch you. You're that good. It was amazing.
No, appreciate it.
That's really incredible. So how about university onward? So you went to school in the U.S. You played Div 1 soccer. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, it was a great experience, but it was also humbling in the sense of, looking back at it now, everything's 2020. You would have chosen differently. I had offers to go to various schools, so it was like Notre Dame or St. John's. There was schools on the West Coast, but then it was between Louisville and Robert Morris that it came to. And initially, I was planning on signing a letter of intent to attend Louisville, and we had a couple players from the East Coast. But when I signed with Pittsburgh, it was a full ride scholarship for 5 years. And financially, to attend school, to alleviate any stress on my parents as well as on myself for financial debt, I was like, I get a starting position. There was 2 players that were in the under 20 camp with me from Toronto. I knew I would be stepping into a full scholarship.
Right.
I chose that, and now that I look back, I wish I had taken Louisville, even though it was around 75%, 80% full scholarship, but it was a much bigger school. Right. There was a proper football, basketball team.
Right.
So there was a lot of things that I opted for because it was a little bit of an easier path, and it was like less obstacles in the way with finances and having a guaranteed starting spot.
Right.
But it was a great opportunity, met wonderful people, but it was after my first year, and growing up in a place that there wasn't much of my community, there was no family in town, so you're building new relationships at a very young age. Right. So it was great for that skill set and understanding, and also detaching from family and becoming truly independent.
Right.
So it was the longest time that I had been away from my family as well.
Yeah.
And back then it was like the early stages of internet, so emails and what have you wasn't common. So I was getting like written letters from my family.
Yeah, that's crazy. And actually handwritten letters.
Yes, and it was awesome. But you cherish those now that you think of it, and that's a lost art. But after my first year, we had a soccer tournament in India with a club called Khalsa, and that was in spring of, 1999 around. And I had another set of trials in Europe. So one thing I didn't bring up was in 94, when my first injury, I had trials in England, and I had tryouts in Stoke City, Coventry, and Wolverhampton.
Wow.
And I got picked up by Wolverhampton. And when I came back to finish high school, I was going to be going back to Wolverhampton every summer so that I can then join the youth reserve program before hopefully making the first team.
Wow.
And it was then that I tore my first ACL.
Goodness. Okay.
So it was like, as much as I look back, it was very challenging at that time. Yeah. It's like, it allows you to rebuild, start fresh, and then try to become better after some adversity and obstacles that you face in life.
Yeah.
So here I am at now 19 years old, and I have trials set up again in England.
Crazy.
I come back to Vancouver from Pittsburgh. I'm set to leave to England the next week. I go play pickup soccer with my brother in the Vancouver Men's League, and I tear my other ACL. And no one was around. On both injuries, no one was around.
No.
So it wasn't anything that you could say, hey, it was a hard challenge, or it was a great play that caused this. It was literally no one was around. So it was these freak accidents. So then it was when I did that, I realized if I'm to go back to Pittsburgh on the scholarship and not have a support system, I'm going to be just sitting on the bench, sidelined. Mm-hmm. And it's not really conducive to a healthy environment to repair and recover and get back. So I deferred that year to just stay at home and work with the best physiotherapists. So I had access to the Celebrini brothers, and Rick and Randy are renowned in the industry, and they got mentored by Alex McKechnie. So I had access to the best here, and then I had my family to support me, and I was able to do that. So I think at an early age, I realized I needed to support myself with people that are the best in their respective industries, but then also have people that truly care and are there to help you both in your highs and lows.
Right.
So it was after a year that I realized, going back to Pittsburgh may not be my best interest, and I started to play soccer again at a very high level with the Brazilian coach that was flown in to Surrey, and we amalgamated this team of people from Miami, Toronto, Vancouver, and it was a bunch of high-level soccer players that were great at what they're doing, some former nationals, some former provincial, some people aspiring to play pros. So we approached this as if it was professional. We were training 6 days a week, 6 hours a day.
Wow.
And it was intense for that summer.
Yeah.
So when I came back, it was the most fit I've ever been because I was, playing like the majority of the week. It was like a work week.
Right.
But then at the end of the summer, I realized that my knees were starting to take a toll. And then I started to look at it as like, after 2 ACL reconstructions, I tweaked my knee again. I was like, maybe I need to reevaluate my aspirations of becoming a professional, and maybe I should start shifting it that I prioritize my academics or do a fusion of both. And having been in the physio room for so long, that's when I was like, you know what? I've had a dabble of doing NCAA Div 1.
Yeah.
My brother had just left to Berkeley for optometry.
Right.
So now my sister was out of the home with marriage. My brother was out for Berkeley. I was like, you know what? Maybe I just stay and transfer to SFU.
Right.
And it was there that I went into the Kines program, and that's where we met.
Yeah.
And so I finished my collegiate career at SFU, and I did 2 years there. Had the obstacles of injuries again, focusing on academics, building new friendships, and realizing there's more to life than just soccer.
Right.
And I think my senior year was a really big thing. For me, I believe if you play sports at a high level, it does wire you in a certain way to approach your business endeavors, your relationships. It allows you to understand what it takes to overcome injuries or to fight through pain.
Right.
To fight for a position, to build camaraderie. There's so many parallels in sport, and I think who you are as an athlete at a high level is who you are as a professional.
True.
So I think if you're very creative and if you're very engaged with the teammates and you're not a solo individual, you have a collective effort. That's kind of who you are in your profession.
Right.
It's very hard pressed for me to find people that I grew up playing with that are very different in their professional lives or personal lives.
That's very true. Actually, I didn't think of it quite that way, but I've noticed that as well. Especially on the broader scale, high level athletes who are very, very competitive athletes, they tend to really do well in pretty much any endeavor they go into because they're hardwired a certain way to compete at that high level, and so they just bring that same mentality to whatever they're doing. But even on a smaller scale, like you're saying, or more detailed, if you're more of a team player, maybe you bring that aspect to your business, or if you're more of that solo, striker kind of guy that plays up front by himself, maybe that's how you approach all your businesses, like solopreneur all the way through.
Totally.
I didn't really think about it, but it makes a lot of sense because it's hardwired over so many years.
And it's within seasons, you have a preseason, you have constant training, you have the medical team and the trainers to support.
Right.
So you're doing all these things that just show that it's repetition, it's consistency, it's perseverance. They're all underlying foundation of what it takes to be, a professional or an entrepreneur or build a career.
Right. All the boring stuff we don't want to do, right?
Definitely.
The consistency, the perseverance, the detailed stuff every single day that you have to do.
Yeah, because people only see the end outcome, which is the game.
Right.
Or it's building towards trying to win the championship.
Right.
No one sees the work, the practice, or the additional treatment and ice baths and everything that we had to do.
Yeah.
On top of it, we had to also manage an academic component, so it's we had to balance time. Right. So I think if people can have that dual career of playing sports and doing academics, it's amazing because it forces you to balance time. Right. It allows you to stay fit and stay active. It allows you to travel.
Yeah.
Because the likelihood of people becoming professional athletes is very challenging. So it's that is such an amazing experience that I highly encourage people to pursue if they have the ability to do so.
Yeah, that's so true. Actually, the fact that you have to juggle all of those things. You have to be able to mentally and physically do all of those things. That all of those skills would easily translate to other aspects later on in life, even if you don't become a pro athlete.
Definitely.
And actually, I mean, again, you're a perfect example of this. So I want to, maybe we'll move on a little bit here. I know that you've kind of dabbled in a few things throughout your earlier career. You were going the fitness route.
Yes.
I can't remember if that came before or after the finance route.
Yes.
But I wanted to actually go into what you're actually doing now. With Style by Sarai, with Sarai Bespoke. I remember chatting with you, it's been years now, when you first, by chance, I think we ran into each other and you're telling me that you had this idea, you're going to go into this style, fashion, world industry.
Yes.
And I didn't really know much about it. You know, I like to dress up from time to time. But what you've become now is so incredible with the brand that you've built. Now it's going beyond fashion though, right? You're going into just lifestyle as a whole. You're creating this concierge service. So tell me a little bit about where it started, and I really want to know how you took these big steps to go into like the luxury side of things and really create your clientele in that space.
Yeah, so I think before I can start with Style by Sarai, the previous careers have transferred over.
Okay.
And I think it also shows that I have the ability to embrace, challenge and embrace risk. And not everyone has that tolerance and are adverse to risk, so they tend to be playing in a safer, more secure environment.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wouldn't have known that Style by Sarai would ever have come to fruition.
Yeah.
So when I was in university, I was either physio or chiro. I actually got accepted into chiropractic programs. And when I started traveling after university, I was like, okay, at some point, I should attend chiropractic school. And it was the owner of Innovative Fitness Now, Curtis Christopherson. It was his father, who was a manager at Air Canada, where I was working after university, and I was traveling, and he's like,
that's awesome.
Before you attend chiropractic school, you should go to Innovative Fitness and just reacquaint yourself with sciences. And it was there that I really got an understanding of lifestyle, because in the mid-2000s, the concept of personal training and to be paying anywhere between 10 to 20 grand a year for personal training as a family or an individual was unheard of in my circles. So this showed that people had the disposable income to reinvest into themselves, to train and get worked out to allow them to live their lifestyles. And it was there that I deferred chiropractic school, because I was getting the ability to engage and learn from people real time, and I felt that was like a real life MBA.
Right.
I'm hearing from people that are living and breathing lifestyle. They're running their own respective careers and are excelling to have this disposable income, but then they also had significant others, they had children, they had charitable endeavors.
Right.
So I was soaking up everything from these individuals from all different ethnicities, all different ages and ranges.
Yep.
And that was something that not everyone in these roles as personal trainers would want to focus on.
Right.
So yet I was delivering a personal training session, I was really maximizing my time with these individuals that I think everyone wants to teach and give back.
Right.
And because I was asking questions and I was inquiring and inquisitive, people were happy to share.
That's awesome.
So it was my two and a half years there. I got a ton of information and framework and foundation from Curtis and his management team at the time, and my peers and my clients. When it was there that a lot of my clients were in the financial industry,
I see.
And it was either that I was going to open up potentially an Innovative Fitness, go back to chiropractic school, or entertain a shift into some world of sales or another career.
Gotcha.
So when I started to inquire amongst my clients, a few of my clients that were in the financial sector, they're like, you should come over to the dark side. And I had no financial background. In Pittsburgh, I had done business because that was a business-focused school. But then when I transferred to SFU, there was Kines. So I think that was a way for me to look back and say, okay, I was willing to step into a full career in my late 20s, when the average age of a rookie at that point as a broker was in their late 30s, early 40s.
Oh, wow.
So to become a broker with zero assets in your book, not joining an existing team, That was like,
That's crazy.
you don't hear that
Yeah.
often. And
Yeah.
now that I look back, I would have been joining a team because you learn so much from people that are in the game and
Yeah.
have done it and have tested multiple systems, and then they can mentor you.
Right.
But I wouldn't give it up for anything now. It was 5.5 years that I was a broker in the high net worth space at RBC Dominion Securities. And it was there that I got to understand and build the foundation of relationships with bankers, accountants, lawyers, understand like the COIs and center of influences that it takes to build a referring network as well as build a community.
Right.
But then you get to understand like how to build like proper, balance sheets and
Right.
understand what goes into companies and the due diligence as to, what it takes to run a sound company.
Yeah.
And then you also get to see that you're investing for people that some people would never know the wealth that they've built in their respective lives and careers.
Right.
Yet they're very calm, caring, unassuming. You would never know that they had this wealth.
Right.
So you would see the people that would live it and flaunt it. Then you would also see the people that were very modest and humble.
Yeah.
And when I got to the 5.5 year point, I realized that there was a lot of things that I needed to improve in my career to take it to the next level, to build more revenue, and to take that next step. But the 5 year mark is where it's like, if you get there, it's like less than, I think, 20% of brokers make it to that from that rookie stage. So the drop-off rate is very big because at some point you're off salary and you're only commission. And I had an opportunity to come back to the health and wellness sector, but it was also the beginning of Style by Sarai. So this was early 2011, 12, at the beginning of Instagram.
Right.
The whole concept of Style by Sarai was starting, and I wasn't loving finance. And Style by Sarai really started as a creative outlet that I was looking for to fill this void.
Mm-hmm.
And before Style by Sarai even started, I was already doing things with events at horse races. I was throwing these art nights with Randy Celebrini, who was an artist, as well as a physiotherapist. His wife Esther would sing, and she was a pianist and a jazz artist. So her and her trio and her husband would do these art shows.
That's
and
awesome.
I would curate, help bring together people, and some people would buy art. We would have drinks, food. So I was doing these lifestyle events back in 2009, 10, before Style by Sarai even existed.
I see.
But I wanted to create an environment, create an experience, bring people together.
Yeah.
So I was doing things before I even knew this
That's
may
amazing.
be a potential career.
Right. And it's so, sorry to cut you off, but it's so crazy because that was the point where we weren't really interacting. I was in the US for school till 2010, and it was after that, 2011, 2012, when we reconnected and you were starting Style by Sarai. But it's so cool to hear that it's stuff that you did over the previous years, and you brought all of that knowledge and information experience to your current place, your current brand.
Totally.
And all those experiences with the individuals at Innovative Fitness, having the presence of mind to ask the questions that then gave you the information to do the things that you're doing now. It's so amazing. So I think there's such an important lesson there. Like, if you are in the presence of people who have done or are doing things you want, make sure you ask the questions that you want to ask and try to absorb as much information as you can from them. Because you never know when it's going to come in. 10 years later, you might be like, I remember what he told me, now I'm going to use that.
Definitely.
It's so important.
And I think like a lot of those people are still dear friends to me.
That's awesome.
And now it's not, some of them are now clients. So it comes like full circle, or they're attending some of our lifestyle events.
Right.
Or we're just going for a coffee to catch up.
That's awesome.
So I think like when you do go beyond the superficial questions, it builds this, you foster a much stronger relationship.
Yeah.
Because when people are giving up those kind of answers and they're engaging, they're giving a piece of themselves.
Right.
And then there is a far stronger connection because people are mindful of like who they're going to be sharing their energy and efforts with.
Absolutely.
So if they feel
Especially
you're that
when you
small percentage that can actually act on it,
right,
like they want that because they know so few people will do it.
Yeah.
That's why like I don't only want to engage with people that are older or more successful. I'm happy to chat with people that have upside and potential and they have this energy, whether they're younger or older, because you just never know where you're going to be able to help someone or they can help you. And a lot of the times people like hold back from asking from that fear or just feeling like they judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And they actually are missing a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think in any career you're at, it's invaluable to like make that effort to always know that in wherever you're at in life, that can transfer over to where you may be, down the road.
Yeah.
So it was like, but the Style by Sarai, I had to give my brother who, Style by Sarai wouldn't exist if my brother didn't tell me to watch the movie Crazy Stupid Love.
Oh, right.
So he, forever I'll be thankful to him because he's like, hey, you gotta be this guy. And within a week of him saying it, my very first style consulting client posted on Facebook. And he's like, I want Ryan Gosling's entire wardrobe.
That's awesome.
And then a mutual friend's wife said, hey, Jason Sarai can point you. So
that's amazing.
It's amazing that before I even had this, 3 people were like, you should do this.
Yeah.
And it was an idea that, eventually has grown into what it is today.
I just rewatched that movie recently on a flight.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the movie. And I thought of you, obviously, because I know your story. I saw Ryan Gosling. Like, I see it.
That's awesome.
That's amazing, man. And I want to give a shout out to your brother real quick, Dr. Sathi Sarai in Chicago. Amazing guy at Keratoconus Doctor on Instagram. Check him out. Amazing guy. All right. So tell me about how you made the leap into luxury. So I asked this of another one of our interviewees where it's like, for me personally, I'm thinking about it from my own end, but I know others would have this fear as well. Like, am I able to serve that clientele?
Yes.
How do I, because you told me a few years ago too, that you were making this conscious decision and it's obviously it's working really well. You've done such a great job of it. But like the stress, I guess it's the fear of not having enough clients. How am I going to make enough money or get enough business to sustain the business and then grow it afterwards? How did you make that choice, and then how did you follow it up? Because sorry, let me just add a little bit more. So if you check out Jason in any form here, he's had these incredible collaborations, and I'm sure you still do. Aston Martin, Bentley, but also with high-end luxury luggage. What else? Hotels, I assume. Watches, of course. So, and that is all part of that conscious decision to go all in on that luxury lifestyle brand. So it's really working. It looks amazing. But sorry, take me back to when it started and how you made that choice.
I realized early on, like Style by Sarai started as a consulting business. So before I even had the bespoke line, when I was doing the consulting, I was catering to the same clientele that I was dealing with in high net worth. So when I was taking them shopping, or I was doing these closet detoxes and I was doing these discoveries, a big component and facet of their life that complemented style was things like their accessories, their cars, their home, interior design.
Right.
So there's multiple aspects of style that go beyond just the clothing. So I think when I started to realize that and understanding that if I was to work with this clientele, you need to create a relationship, and in order to create a relationship you need time. So early on it's like, if I'm to cater to working with the masses, like how do you build relationships? It's impossible to do so. It's very at a superficial level. So knowing that those were publicly traded companies or private ownership, but they were amassing a massive amount of wealth in order to facilitate these businesses. To compete in that space it's very daunting. And then at the same time, the margins within that, it's intended strictly for volume.
Right.
So there's no way to foster relationships and build a business without, in order to make good money, it's like you'll have no life.
Right.
You're working around the clock.
Right.
So I knew that as I was building out Style by Sarai, there was components that I was diversifying, but knowing that the suit side, in order for me to collaborate with these other companies, I had to be in the same vicinity.
Right.
So I had to charge a price that was reflective of the brands that I wanted to work with. And it was all it's all within respect of the realm that you're in. But if someone's spending X amount of their disposable income on this garment, then yes, they have the means to spend this on a watch or a car or on travel. So it was something that took many years. It's now 5+ years on this the suit line.
Yeah.
But it was something that over the last 5 years, I think in the luxury space, you're not meant to try to sell and ask people to become your client. So it's a very slow approach of fostering this, like creating this brand, fostering relationships, building in word of mouth that's organic,
Right.
and then creating strong retention. And without building relationships, I think that's a part of what luxury is. It's
Right.
exclusivity.
Right.
It's not just craftsmanship. It's not just quality. I think what people associate to luxury is price.
Right.
And that's not what luxury is.
Right.
So in order for me to build this lifestyle brand and to build this luxury product, I needed to work with less people.
Gotcha.
So each year I'm refining that more and more. And when you're doing that, if I just focused on suits, I realized 4 years ago, that if it was just on the product side,
Yeah.
then I'll just be known as suits at some point.
That's true.
And then there are people that make better suits than me. There's people that make not
Yeah.
as good suits as
Right.
me. And there's people that are within the vicinity. At that point, if that's what the gauge is, then what is really holding someone to stay with you?
Right.
It's the minor details really come to the relationship. It's like understanding who they are.
Right.
It's the experience and access that you're providing them through events or
Yeah.
through relationships or through experiences when they're traveling.
Yeah.
And that's where we're really pushing towards, is surrounding ourselves with the best of the best in their respective industries,
Yeah.
to help elevate us to only pursue greater, challenges and obstacles to overcome, to be like, we can elevate our brand to even greater heights.
Right.
So
That's excellent. So it's not, I love that it's not just about price, because I think that so many people do think of it that way. It's about the exclusivity is so important, but the experience that you build around your product or your service. I think there's a lot that can be taken and applied. Obviously a lot of our audience will be in the optometry or eye care space.
Yes.
And I think there's so much that can still be taken away, whether you're selling glasses or whether you're just providing a service as an optometrist. You can make it this higher tier service if you are giving people a level of care that they are not going to get by the average or the mainstream type of providers,
Yes.
right? And I think that's so important. I wanted to shift to something that you said in there. You mentioned about the Stoic philosophy, and that's something that I know you read a lot, you're into philosophy, you're into sort of spirituality, and something that I've learned a lot from you, actually. So there's 2 books that I post a lot,
Yes,
right?
I'm
There's
super
the
happy.
Robin Sharma Daily Inspiration and the Ryan Holiday Daily Stoic, and I got them both from you. So I truly appreciate.
no, I'm
Your-
happy you
your-
read them regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Super important for me. I feel like they've really made a difference in my life. So thanks for paving the way there and sharing that knowledge with me. So anyway, tell me how important that's been for you, and how you might apply stuff like that philosophy and stuff in your day-to-day life.
Well, I'm a big believer. It's like knowledge is power. I wasn't very strong in university and didn't prioritize my academics.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as I've been building my business, I've really delved heavily into literature and surrounding myself with people that are pushing me to just learn and grow. So I had friends that introduced me, and my business coach that introduced me more into the Stoic philosophy. So as much as I would like to take credit for you reading these books, it was others that introduced it to me. But I've always enjoyed reading motivational and aspirational quotes. It's just something that has provided fuel and fire for me.
Right.
And even though I know there's a lot of internal motivation, that external motivation just to give you that nudge when you need it,
Yeah.
or provide that alignment, is always powerful.
Right.
And what I liked was I find Robin Sharma's, when people are getting into it, it's great, and it's not, you don't have to put as much
True.
depth and thought into it, and
Right.
it really cuts it down where it's like, this resonates.
Right.
Yes, this was perfect timing.
Yeah.
And with Daily Stoic, I feel it takes it to the next level, where you have a quote by a Stoic philosopher from hundreds of years ago,
Yeah.
but then it's broken down by Ryan Holiday to interpret what it means now.
Yeah. Love
But
it.
it allows you to really, think at things in a greater depth.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, slow down, reflect, and think. And I like that you post it now, because there's days that I go without reading it. And it is, though, it's like, it's powerful when it's the power of sharing.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder, it's like, okay, there's more people reading, and then it is that accountability,
Right.
that you're like, okay, we have other people in our circles that are sharing it.
Yeah.
And then I hear
Yeah.
your interpretation of it, or your thoughts, or
Yeah.
what you highlight.
Right.
It allows me to then look at what's your interpretation? So
True. That's
amongst my friends, we talk about it. We share it in our small digital circles. Once a week, my wife and my mom and I will read each of them.
That's awesome.
And then we also have this 365 days of Rumi. And that's really challenging for me, like poetry. And my wife can break that down in a way that I struggle.
Yeah.
And it's awesome for us to interpret, to hear
cool.
different ages of people and their interpretation. So I think I've just started to continue to really seek to grow, learn, and from a knowledge standpoint, I think that's our greatest ability as humans is we have this brain that's unlimited power.
Right.
And you can take away physical components as we age, but your mind can remain sharp.
100%.
And we can always, how we are now, 5 years from now, our very same thoughts on these philosophies will be very different.
That's very true.
That's not just from personal, but it can be from business or from community or health, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So,
and that's so true because these philosophies have been around for like hundreds, if not a couple thousand years, and yet here we are still reading them and still applying them to our daily life. It's pretty incredible, and I agree with everything you said and how useful they are in the day to day. So to wrap up, there's 2 questions I like to ask, and the first one is, if we can travel back in time, and you go to younger Jason who's just had his second knee injury, because I know that was probably a tough place to be. What would you tell him, knowing everything you know now 20 years later? I should call this the hindsight 2020 hindsight, right? Because that's essentially what it is. So
so at that age, when I tore my second ACL, yes, I would say, there's people that have it far worse. As challenging as that was, I had shelter, I had food, I had family, I had people that loved and support me, I had the access to get care.
Right.
So it's not that bad. And there's a way to come back better. And this is what real life is. That things may be, upside potential, but life has the ability to knock you down. It's like, how do you come back?
Right.
So I would say it's like stay calm, stay committed and consistent to a program, seek the best care and professionals to help you get back, because if you invest in that, the likelihood of you coming back better is that much more.
Right.
Focus on academics, because that is like my aspirations was only to be a professional player even after the second injury. And I still try to make it. Because the odds of making it as a professional athlete is it's very slim, but then academics can't be taken away. And I think we're in a time right now that people are slamming academics.
True.
And then I think we got to remind that like it provides so much foundation, regardless of you use your academics or not. I wouldn't be the entrepreneur I am today without finishing my degree.
Right.
And going through those challenges and exams and things that were not fun at the time, but it provides that foundation. So I think I would tell myself is like, really double down on the academics, double down on giving back to community, do those things earlier that I'm doing now, but I wish I just started when I was like 19, 20.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that's
awesome.
Covers a fair amount.
It does, absolutely. Well, that was sort of what sorry to take you back. I know it was a tough spot, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned in those difficult times.
For sure.
I think you covered a lot of it there. And then the last question is, everything you've done and achieved, how much of it would you say is hard work, and how much of it would you say is luck?
I'm a big believer of like, it's all about hard work. And I think you create your own luck. But I think there is things that happen in the universe that present, and there is there's chance more than luck.
Right.
And I think it's like, they say it's like the right place, right time, but I think it requires the right action. I think these opportunities exist, but are we willing to act at that time?
Right.
And then some people will perceive it to be as luck.
Right.
And I don't think that's the case.
Absolutely.
It's more chance and things fall into place. And, some brands can, grow because it was the right time, right place, but they also did the right action. I think people discredit or take away some people's success because of saying it was luck, but I definitely believe it's more chance.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, nothing trumps hard work. And people don't see a lot of the hard work that goes on, especially in this digital time.
Right.
But it will last the test of time that I will take. And for myself, if I'm to hire someone or to work with someone, if I know they're willing to put in the work and they may be less talented versus someone that's highly talented, great resume, but it's not a hard worker, I will take the hard worker every day of the week.
Makes sense. That's awesome. I love that chance versus luck, and also the action part is something that I harp on all the time, is like taking action actually is the most important, because that creates the chances and the luck also sometimes as well.
Yeah, no, very much so. So I appreciate that.
Awesome, man. So thank you again so much for doing this, brother. I really appreciate it. I think there was some incredible insights. Not some, there was a lot in there.
No, thank you.
So many things that we can learn. Something I was telling Jason, and from this, the whole point of this is to chat with people who are not necessarily in my industry, but so I can learn, take lessons from them. Hopefully you guys can take lessons and apply them to whatever industry you're in. I think there's a lot of parallels across industries. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you guys all for listening and for watching. That was the 2020 podcast. And don't forget to share this, guys. If you're watching on your phone or listening on your phone, take a screenshot, throw it up on your story on Instagram, Facebook, tag me, let me know what you think. And of course, don't forget to leave us a rating on the podcast app. Thank you so much again. We'll see you guys for the next episode.
Awesome, bro.
Awesome, brother.
Hey,
thank you, man.
Was that okay?
That was amazing.